Welcome. On today's video, I thought it would be fun to have a look at my Fender Hotrod amp. This amp I've used live plenty of times, but I've never used it to do recording because I've never been satisfied with the heavy tones that I was able to get from it. So with the last album I did with Shadows at Bay, I used the 11 rack to help get my guitar tones. So I thought it would be a fun challenge to see if I can get a heavy enough tone out of the Fender Hotrod amp. Should be able to go onto an album. So I've got this TC Electronic dark matter pedal, which I'm going to put through the Fender. And it's going to be fun to give this a bit of a test run too, because I've yet to play with it. And I'm going to pull up a song from the actual album, Remember Me, to record the guitars there. And then we can do a comparison to see how they sound and if I was anywhere close or if I was just really far off. So yeah, let's get stuck into it and see how we go. Here we have the Fender amp set up. I've got my two microphones set up, how I like to capture my guitar sound. If you haven't seen the video on how I do that, I highly recommend it, because I go into detail of what each microphone does and why I do it. But if you haven't seen it and are still keen, I'm not going to keep you hanging. The basic rundown is my E609 picks up the low end on the edge of the cone, and my SM57 is in the middle of the cone, which picks up a lot of the high end and the treble. Now, it looks a little bit bizarre at the moment, but the speaker is actually located to the side of this amp. You can't see with the mesh. So I've done my best to get the SM57 directly in the middle of the speaker cone. But yeah, you might just think I'm a fool because it looks like I'm way off. And either way, I'm just happy you're watching, really. So let's start off, actually, before I work on these tones, I'm going to explain my approach to it. So when I was a student, a sound engineering student, and when my first few gigs I got as a sound engineer working in different studios, it was a shared space. So we got in the routine of after every shift or after every day we did any work, we zeroed everything down. So the next person comes in doesn't have to do that themselves, mucking around. And I've kind of just kept that same work approach. And this amp has been no exception. So I haven't used it in a bit and everything is down to zero. And even starting off with my dark matter pedal here, I've got everything just set on zero as well, because that's just how I'm used to working. Because it took a while before I got my first gig where it went over multiple days that ran back to each other. So we could actually leave the settings there knowing that no one was going to touch it and come back and do it. And that doesn't just go with amps, that's with big mixing consoles, any equipment that I use. I just like to always zero it after a session is done. So let's go through and try stay on message and get some sound. So everything's on zero and still getting a little bit of sound coming through on here. This amp does not lack loudness whatsoever. It's actually one of the issues I have with this amp is trying to control the volume with it. I've had gigs with Shadows at Bay using this live where the venue was small enough where we didn't need to actually mic up this at all. We just turned it up to, I think we went to 5, and that was loud enough to do the whole venue just off its own back. I think I actually had to turn it down a little bit during that set as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so the volume goes up to 12. I've never gone past 5. And in saying that, this shows how sensitive it is, because watch how I actually turn the knobs to get the volume. Even that I can feel at the bottom of my stomach already. And it's what, under 2 on the actual settings. All right, so one thing I'm going to do is let's get the treble up to, I say 12 o'clock. because 12 o'clock being like an hour clock going straight up. But on this settings, it's like 6:30ish. So however you want to interpret it, if you want to call it 6:30 or 12 o'clock, whatever works for you. All right, let's give it a bit of presence as well. Let's chuck that straight 6:30. So I'll probably muck around with this a little bit more once I do get the distortion going and find that nice sweet spot with it. So before we go to the dark matter pedal, let's see if I can turn it on channel 2. Get some overdrive from this amp, so we've got a bit of a comparison between the two. So here's just some, crank it, I don't know about there. There's not that much difference when you're between that range there. So this is a problem I've got with this amp. A little bit fuzzy, but that's a bit here, nor here or there. But it's just fuzzy, a little bit too fuzzy for my liking. It doesn't have that quite level of, what's the best description, like bite and grit to it that I really like. And the definition in the lower tones. Yeah, because it's a little bit too fuzzy. That's why I never wanted to record just with this. So let's go back to the clean channel. And let's get this pedal happening and see if we can get better results from that. So once again, got to give it some level. Now we give it a little bit of bass, a little bit of treble, just put it at 12 o'clock. And some important gain. So straight away, the first thing I realize is this has got a lot more clarity in the lower register of this guitar, which is good. So it's got less fuzz and more of a defined register, for lack of a better term. So that knob there is modern to vintage. So down is modern. So it sounds like it's got more of a, just a mid boost. Which I actually really like. So let's see if we can push it a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, I really like that. So this is with the gain fully pushed. Yeah, I prefer it pulled back just a little bit more. So now I'll play with the presence on the amp here, and yeah, really liking this dark matter pedal. Yeah, that's sounding really good. So we've gone from this is an amp sound to this. So we have lost a bit of volume on it because we haven't pushed the volume up fully through the pedal, which is no problem at all because, as I said earlier, a lot of the forums that use this recommend, and they use a pedal there to help control the levels because that is way too sensitive. Way too sensitive. So, no, I really like this tone. I say we push this onto the next stage, which is going to the studio, grabbing a segment of probably 30 seconds or 20 seconds worth of the album, and I'll record this sound that we've captured here. I might go through a noise gate as well just to clean up a little bit of that hiss that we have pushing the gain so high. Find the balance between the two mics of how much low and how much treble we want with it, and record it a couple of times to go left and right speaker, and then compare them both and see which one sounds better, and see, yeah, if I have any regrets or not trying it this way compared to how I actually did the album. So yeah, fun times. Let's see what the results are. All right, now we're back in the control room. I've reset up things in here. So I've brought my dark matter pedal in here, and I've added just a noise gate pedal there just to control with the sounds a bit. So if you're not sure what a noise gate does is, the basics of it is if there's a little bit of a hiss, it will just take it away, and it won't start opening to let sound through until there's X amount of volume. So for example, the X amount of volume will be, where's my guitar pick? As soon as there's enough volume coming out of the guitar, then it lets signal go through. And if there's anything under that, it will cut it out. So all that hiss that we're getting before is now controlled by that little funky device. Now let's find our guitar tone that we want. So over here on the mixer, I have the two microphones going into one output here, straight into my audio interface, which captures the sound to go into the computer. So to give you an example, we have, let's start with the SM57. So this is a little microphone in the middle of the cone. This is what it sounds like. So very top endy. Now, if we turn that all the way down and turn the other mic, the 609, we get this. So huge difference. So placing those microphones, capturing those two type of frequencies has worked a charm. But now we have the challenge of finding that mix, finding that nice blend between them both. So I like a lot of low end with this, a lot of that warmth. So let's start adding in a little bit of the top end. A little bit more. A little bit more. There's that bite that we want. A little bit more bite. And let's see if I add in just a little bit of the bottom end. This is, I'm looking for that tone type of face. Michael Jordan had one when he was going for a dunk. This is my one when I look for a guitar tone. A little bit more maybe, but not too much because I don't want it to... A little bit more. Yeah. I really like the sound of that. I think that's a nice mix. Actually, let's just for argument's sake. What happens if we add more bite? I'm going to say no. Bring it back to where it was. Is that 0? Because it got to that point where they were kind of competing too much and not working together and getting this weird fuzz effect, which was not pleasant. I think it's time to put this to a song. So I'm going to go through the album and find a good 20 seconds probably worth of Shadows at Bay material, take out the guitars, re-record them with this tone, and then we'll compare them straight after that and see how they sound. So I'm going to get to it. All right, so that's how the guitar sounded running through the Dark Matter and the Fender amp, mic'd up. So let's hear how the original guitar sounded on the album for Remember Me. So let's take out mute, 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 the 3 guitars I recorded. Let's bring in the left and right that I had for the album. And here it sounds. So, yeah, obviously the album's been mixed and been altered a lot compared to just the raw recordings that I did. But let's just have a quick listen to both of them to hear the difference. So here is the old guitars soloed. I'll go to the heavy part because that's where the most guitars are and there's less little harmonies and little extra little guitars I chucked in. So there's one repetition of that. Now let's go to the new guitars that I just did. So there's been very little editing and all that to these. As you can see, they're pretty much just recorded and chucked on and played back to you. The first thing I do notice is the amount of air that we can hear in running through the Fender amp compared to going through the 11 rack unit, which is understandable, and there's definitely ways we can EQ that out and clean it up a bit. But I do reckon, let's just play it one more time. All right, let me play that again, but now with the bass in. Yeah, that's got a lot more. The new way I feel like it's got a lot more of a bite, especially in that mid-range to cut through nicely compared to the original one. The original one seems more coated, which is to be expected since it's gone through a bunch of filters and other things to be at the end result where it's at. So on initial thought, what are your thoughts? What do you think of the two different ones? They are very, very different. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised with the dark matter running through the Fender. So let's move on now to my final thoughts. So there you've heard, that's what the Fender Hotrod sounds like with the assistance of the dark matter going through it. So my final thoughts on it. Firstly, I was extremely surprised on how much I could actually push this. And as much as I don't like the onboard overdrive that it has on it, this dark matter really brought through the brightness and clarity that I like in my distortion. So extremely surprised on the results we got from that. Was it better than I got from the album? Hindsight is a beautiful thing. First of all, I don't regret the album results at all. I really like those, how those guitar tones turned out in the overall mix. But if I had the choice to go back and do it differently, I would definitely approach it with this first and then work on cleaning up the sound and giving that final polish to help fix in with the mix, with the drums and the bass. So definitely a fun day. Definitely a fun day, good results, surprising results from what I got from here compared to what I got on the album with the 11 rack. Oh, hey Piper. So what are your thoughts? What do you think? Do you think that what I got from this, I'm a little bit overreacting because I'm just happy that I finally got it, because I did kind of push this aside because I haven't touched this amp in a long time, especially since I got my other equipment, because I was never happy with the distortion. So am I overreacting just because it's like a new thing and I got some decent results? And I'm just so used to the old one, I'm kind of pushed aside on the quality it really is? Or are you on the same wavelength as what I am? Yeah, please let me know. And also, if you're keen to see any other type of videos that you think might be interesting that I do, I'm happy to take on any request. I've had a couple of friends reach out and want certain type of videos, which I'll be doing next, which I'm looking forward to. So thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, whether it's in the foreground or the background. I appreciate your company and being a part of the ride. And until next time, stay safe.